And we are back. Appreciate y'all for tapping in. We love you to pieces. We're doing all right. That's the name of the show. Brian, you okay? How you doing? How you doing, Brian? You doing all right?
I'm doing all right, man. You doing all right today?
Yeah, man. I got to ask sometimes. I just can't just assume you just doing all right. I'm going to ask you every other month, maybe a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, right. I kind of feel like it's funny, like when I read the comments that people, let's say, here we are. We're all right,
No, Brian, trust me.
And we're back. And we're back. They love that part.
They love and we're back. They love and we back. Some people even do a finger up emoji and a finger point emoji. I read all the comments too, Brian.
I tell you, the one you did last night, it was funny. I went back and watched the show. I always go back and watch our shows or listen to it while I'm driving around. Sure. And the one you do with the handshake is funny.
Shake my hand.
Shake my hand. There you go.
Shake my hand.
I think Nick Harris was like, what the hell are they doing?
Hey, Brian, some you're gonna learn is that I am not a conventional media guy. So when we talk to all of our media friends, they're either gonna run into jokes or energy, or maybe even both, and we'll just do it like that.
Well, we enjoyed having Nick on last night, and I was on with him this morning on the break.
Yeah, I
said, hey, thanks for popping on. He goes, man, you guys are a lot of fun. Yeah. And I go, yeah, well, appreciate that, man. we try. We talk some serious football, but we also try and have a little fun along the way.
I tell you what, Brian, Nick made me feel insecure because he started talking about college players. I didn't know who the hell he was talking about. I just knew I knew two people.
I gave him the Phil Collins look.
Yeah,
I gave him today, like he started talking about like draft and stuff like that. And I looked at him like, bro, you're not supposed to be like doing this yet. But no, he's already diving in. Man, I was talking with Aisha Morrison. She's getting ready to dive in. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of, I have a feeling, Dane Brugler's been doing this since May because when the draft ends, he takes about 4 weeks off and then dives back in after Memorial Day, I think is what he does. And so he's way ahead of the game. I know Daniel Jeremiah, talking to him, he's up there now. But those guys, we'll catch up.
Yeah,
we'll eventually catch up. Yeah, but it's interesting to see that the scout media world is prepping this thing. They're kind of like, lose one or two more games, and next thing you know, we're with that 10th pick. Voch, what do you think they're going to do with that 10th pick?
Brian, I can imagine Panthers fans been doing this for a couple of weeks now. They've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, Brian, man, we got a couple more losses before I'm just starting to watch guys passively. And I think if you lose 3, I think it's about safe to go ahead and get going there. Brian, let me ask you a question. Well, please.
No, real quick. Yeah, I've always gone around December 1st, and and then you and I will have this journey too on the draft show together. And in our own podcast, We're Doing All Right podcast, we'll be talking about that quite a bit. So yeah, it's I always try to make sure like December 1st. You guys have got me kind of itching now, to kind of, I'm reaching out to guys, some of my scout buddies around the league. I'm like, you got a top 100 yet on some of these names? You're going to give me about 100 names to look at to get this thing started, kind of a deal. And I'll tell you what's crazy, and I think you and I have talked about this before, is that I don't think there's a bad player. I mean, I don't mean a bad player. I don't think there's a wrong position to draft.
A bad pick, yeah.
That's what's crazy. Usually you'll go into a draft and you're kind of like, gosh, you got to have a wide receiver. Gosh, you got to have a defensive tackle. Gosh, I think the Cowboys are open to anything that's on that board. Maybe not the quarterback part of it. Maybe some people will say, BS, Brian, it should draft a quarterback. But I think that you're pretty much open to all possibilities depending on where that pick is.
I thought about this early, Brian, and I can't believe I'm even doing this right now. We giving the drafts 5 minutes, but
I know.
I was looking at Tankathon earlier. Right?
Yeah, that's a cool one to look at.
So I was looking at them. I just wanted to
planning a little bit.
Yeah, no. I had to do a show somewhere else, Bleacher Report, and they wanted to know 5 Cowboy trade ideas. And I had to tell Bleacher Report, we ain't trading nobody, but I got to know what picks look like. We got 3/5 and a 6 possibly coming in or whatever. Yeah. But I saw Tankathon's mock draft, and they had us drafting the safety from Georgia, and I was like, you know what? I think safety is kind of a luxury position. Like safety, tight end, those are kind of. Can I in good and we ain't talking about draft right now, but can I in good spirit draft the safety when we need 1 tech, 3 tech, right tackle, wide receiver, running back, pass rush? You know what I mean?
I'll tell you one thing. If that damn Georgia safety can like defend the middle of the field and can tackle and can like and can cover people, if he's like that that kid that went to Detroit, that safety,
Brian Branch, Kyle Hamilton, those guys.
If that son of a gun is Brian Branch, I'm going to run the card to the table myself. I'm going to run the card from my drafting position to the podium. But I mean, that's what I think that's what's going to be interesting about the Cowboys draft this year, at least so far. What we've seen is they're really going to be open to, and this might be a hard year for us to say. At 17, they're going to take Leighton Vander Esch.
Sure.
And you know it in March. One of those things. Mm-hmm. But I think they're completely open to taking position. I'm going to be fascinated to see where or who is on this board when Dallas picks.
Man, Brian, I tell you what, man, losing games is bad for business.
It sucks.
But it's fantastic for draft season, boy. If you got a top 10 pick, your numbers go up in draft season, bro. So
for two guys that do love the draft.
Yeah.
And love the mechanics of it and love to work on looking at the players and building boards and talking about it. You give me a top 10 pick. We have some fun, but we're about to have a lot of fun. Oh, yeah. Talking scenarios, trade ups, trade backs. Are you going to really trade away from that guy? Why would you do that? It's Voch, that's an idiot move. It's an idiot move. You're not going to, and you're going to go, well, Brian, you'll tell me, and I'm going to be like, no, you're wrong. And that's what's going to be a lot of fun about this thing, when the draft comes around. Because the draft, when you're picking at the bottom of the draft, you're kind of at the mercy of the board.
Sure.
And you just kind of, we'll take. But you get up there in that top 12.
All right, Brian, do you take the second best left tackle or the first best wide receiver, Brian? What are you doing?
There you go.
That's the conversation.
There you go.
I love it. Hey, that's a fantastic preview of what y'all got in store. Doing all right is going to be going great. Brian, we have speaking of the draft, we got a day 3 corner that we drafted there from Fresno there. He's activated, but that don't mean he playing necessarily. With this damn passing offense that we going against, we're going to be breaking down Falcons offense, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Get comfy. With this damn offense that you going against in the Falcons, you'll love to have Bland, but it's not guaranteed, right, Brian?
No, it's not guaranteed. I talked to some people this morning before I went over to the Star and kind of asked where Bland and Parsons were going to be practice-wise today, and got the word that they both were going to be with Britt Brown, the associate athletic trainer, does all the rehabilitation stuff. Those guys were with him today. So here we are. We're a Wednesday, no practice for either one of those guys. Have a Thursday with no practice with either one of those guys. You can pretty much, think that they're probably not going to play. So there's I was asking some folks over there too about this. I go, hey, well, what guys are going to get back? What can you tell me something about? And they're like, these injuries, like, it's too much to even talk about. It's too much, AO gets hurt, gets a knee in the back, his situation, he goes on IR. I mean, the kid played well for you. The kid, he for having to get thrown in there the way he played, but that you're right. It's just so unfortunate that here's another one of those games where when you watch Atlanta's offense, there's things that you could maybe take advantage of, but they're just not things that are your strength right now. And some of it has to do with the injuries you're dealing with.
Sure. Well, if I just had to guess, Bryan Broaddus, we don't really rehearse these things. We just kind of do our research and show up and talk about it. If there's a way you're gonna put hands on the Falcons, and teams have done it this year. Teams like the Seahawks kind of gave them some blues about this. The Eagles kind of gave them some blues. Like you'll have to pressure Kirk. You know,
you do.
You have to get to Kirk, and if you look up Kirk's sack numbers, I got a little film for y'all. We ain't doing nothing now. If you look up Kirk's sacks, I mean, he'll give them up. I got him down for 15, and the Cowboys have struggled with this quarterback that runs around and gets away from you. You know, Watson, Jackson, all these other guys. Kirk is as statue as it gets. I know we just kind of fussed about Dak and, you know, Dak not being able to move no more. Kirk ain't going nowhere, Bryan Broaddus.
Nope.
Kirk is going to be right where you saw him at. So yeah, getting pressure, like Kirk will let you sack him. But to your hint and your tease there, we aren't really sack guy right now.
No, we're not really sack guy. And this is kind of where, you know, when you watch him play, majority of the plays are going to be from the pocket. Not a lot of outside the pocket, outside the tackle box throws. He's going to stand in there and he is going to either let you hit him or he's going to throw from a clean pocket and probably make a pretty decent throw right there.
Sure.
But, you know, that's kind of where this team likes to attack the middle of the field. We've talked about this ad nauseum about dealing with teams that attack the middle of the field. Now, to me, this is not a big crossing route team. This is a big, you know, hitch, quick, hitch, seams, stuff like that. That's what this team is. You know, now maybe things will change a little bit. Maybe, you know, maybe they will say, well, damn, let's take Moody on some crossing routes here. Let's try and find a way to run across the field and see if Dallas will chase us. The one thing I learned kind of watching, man, it's a good hit right there. The one thing I learned about watching Atlanta is that you'll get some motion and then you will get those, like I say, pretty simple. It's either hitches, you'll get outs, you'll get maybe a post.
9 routes sometimes.
Yeah. You get some, you know, you'll get some routes that, you know, you should be pretty comfortable covering. They'll work the middle of the field. That's kind of where he likes to go. The majority of his touchdowns, the majority of the Falcons' touchdowns have come out of 11 personnel. I believe that they had. I was just kind of looking at these numbers, and you know, 18 of their 19 touchdowns have been out of 11 personnel. 3 wide receivers, 1 back, you know, 1 tight end. That's kind of how they're going to play. So you got to be ready for that. The thing about with Cousins is, and you know, metrics again say this: he's most effective, and I mentioned this, like he's right around almost 79% with passes that are thrown in the middle of the field and the seam passes and stuff like that. So, you know, that's something you're going to have to deal with. Will the Cowboys adjust their game plan with different safeties? Possibility. Could we see a Wanye Thomas over Wilson start? You know, kind of keep your ear to the ground. What's going on at the Star this week? There was a time when I worked at the Star full time. I would have known this. I would have known who's getting that work. But you know, we got to kind of keep our ear to the ground and see if there's actually going to be a change at safety, because I just don't think you could go into this game. Being that way. I don't think you could sit there and say, you know, okay, Wilson, you go ahead and take Pitts and, you know, and here we go kind of thing again.
Bryan, let me ask you this. You've been personnel guy, front office guy. Let me ask you, I know, you know, there's this adage that says follow the money, right? When you talk about players that are playing. But at what point do you go, damn the money, we getting smoked right here. Let's try a young guy that we think is better, but we haven't been playing because of the money. When did this happen? When does this happen, Bryan?
Well, it honestly, I felt like it happened at the end of the 49er game when all of a sudden Mukwamu and Jordan Lewis and those guys are lining up and taking the snaps or the reps of Donovan Wilson covering George Kittle.
Sure.
When all of a sudden when it turned into, okay, we've got to get a stop, we got to get off the field. One Donovan Wilson covering, it was Mukwamu, it was Jordan Lewis.
Yeah.
You know, which probably should have been line A. I wouldn't be surprised in this game. You need somebody with some length You need somebody with some size, maybe the right temperament. We've seen McQuamu have some success before. He's a little bit of kind of a little bit shaky at sometimes, but it's other times he's a super competitive kid. Can he handle dealing with, Kyle Pitts that way? Kyle Pitts is a problem for a lot of people, not just, he's tall, he's got length. He's one of those guys I remember, and you probably remember the same plays.
Sure.
Watching Florida play Georgia, and him make incredible catches and across the middle of the field. That's where they're going to work. That's where they're going to work with this guy. They're going to find ways. He had a touchdown the other day against Tampa, the first touchdown of the game against the Bucs, where they treat him like a wide receiver. They put a corner on him. The nickel plays, the nickel falls. Nickel's getting pass interference or actually defensive holding, trying to, to handle him. And then, it's a touchdown. So, there's issues there. There's some issues there. But to your question, your point, I think we've seen this already.
Sure.
I think we've seen when Mike Zimmer decided at the end of that San Francisco game that he wasn't going to put Donovan Wilson on that anymore. That might have been the end for Donovan Wilson until further notice.
Kyle Pitts is a dude, Bryan Broaddus, and it's debatable whether he's lived up to his fullest. Kyle
I don't think he's had a quarterback. Don't think he's had a quarterback.
He's finally got one, Bryan Broaddus.
Yeah, I think he got a quarterback.
Yep.
This guy is the ultimate game manager. Yep. Is what this cat is. He doesn't miss on throws to the running back. That he just doesn't. He can swing it, screen it. When he doesn't miss throws that way.
Sure.
This way he as you mentioned, he'll stand in there, he'll fire down the middle of the field. He doesn't make his receivers have to do anything crazy to get the ball.
Sure.
Like you say, that right there, you just see the hitch, the curls, the outs. You'll see that. Anything up the field, the seam routes, things like that. He does not make his guys have to work for the football. Now, by standing in that pocket, he will take pressure, he will take hits, and the ball will fly out of his hand. And it might be, the Cowboys have played this cat a couple of different times.
This will get you.
They played, played him at the Metrodome or the old Metrodome. Played him at the whatever the bank place is now.
Sure.
The old Metro. They played in Minnesota a couple of times. But anyway, this guy they've done a good job of getting pressure on him in the past. And he's kind of wilted and folded under pressure. This is an opportunity in this game. Now, Voch, hear me on this one.
Sure.
And I'm trying to remember, because a little bit of an old man syndrome here. Right. I'm trying to remember, did we talk about playing Overshone as a rush end?
We talked about it when he first got drafted. You guys were on the draft show day 3. It was some of the personnel guys were like, "Oh man, we love Overshone. We love his, his linebacker ability off the ball, but we also want to try him as a pass rusher type guy." And he got a sack last week, and that closing speed was
See, this is where to me, when you start to talk about maybe some of the issues that the Falcons have, and Jake Matthews has been in the league now for 10 years, the left tackle.
Yep.
Gives up some pressures. Chris Lindstrom, has been in the league, since, 2019, first round pick, Boston College, kind of a controversial pick at the time. He's given up some pressures. This group, you could kind of go down the line. You go to Matthews. You can go to Bergeron. You can go to McGarry. They've given up some sacks. Those guys have given up like 3 sacks. I would not be opposed to no more. You got a quarterback that ain't running, so don't worry about spy stuff or whatever you're thinking about there.
Sure.
What you need to do is think about, how could I get Overshone up the field and into sack mode? Maybe you can't do it every single time. But you know what? You kind of figured out something with Micah Parsons after an injury to Tank Lawrence before a game against the Los Angeles Chargers. All of a sudden you said, well, maybe we have to play Micah Parsons at some rush edge. And now all of a sudden it's like, whoa, wait. After what I saw that kid rushing unblocked, the way he closes, why not?
Sure.
You don't have any real pass rush right now. You just don't. You mean they blitzed McQuamu like 3 times last week and didn't even get close.
Yeah.
You know, they just, you have to maybe think about something a little bit different in this football game. Maybe something that the Falcons aren't thinking about. That, oh, look, this number 13. Now maybe, the smart pro personnel guy who watched the Cowboy tape and put together some of the personnel game plan stuff, probably saying, listen, you got to account for this number 13 for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Because he could come on a blitz, So I would, I think about changing up the safeties, and I would think about taking Overshown from off-ball linebacker to putting him on the edge and just scream and try and make something happen.
So do you take him away from linebacker, or do you do what we've been wanting to do with Parsons? Like, let him just kind of do linebacker stuff, but when it's time to rush the passer, then you put him down and let him rush.
Yeah, I think that, to me, if what he did the other day gave me hope that, like, okay, this might be a sneaky thing you can do with a guy.
Sure.
Here's a guy. He doesn't have the weight of Parsons, but man, he's explosive. And the son of a gun can finish. That's something you're going to need in the pocket. And if Kirk Cousins is going to stand there and not move, that's a stationary. That's like a quarter. That's a pass rush drill. Run to the bag. Just run to the bag there. So you got to do something, man. Because I'll tell you another thing. You watch these backs. I know you've seen these backs. Both these backs are good. Robinson, Algier, they're both good. Both average about, they're going to give you about 5.5 yards a carry. Good backs. But what you have to do with these guys is that when you play heavy box or 8-man box, stack box, they average less than 3 yards a carry.
Sure.
But
we bad when we stack the box. But we bad. We terrible when we stack the box, bro.
Okay, now you know what? I do it anyway.
Yeah.
I just do it. I'm not going to let these guys run on me, and I'm sure in the hell. I'll tell you another thing. You saw this too. You watch these receivers. You watch London, Moody. You watch these guys, McLeod.
Yeah.
You watch these guys play. When people press them, they're not as good.
Yeah.
They're not contested catchers. Dallas plays a lot of zone. Now, if you had Bland in this game and Diggs and Lewis and you had all those guys in the game, just press these guys. Press them and make them win. Make them win on the outside. Kirk Cousins is all about timing and throwing. He tries to get the ball out, and he does a really good job.
Sure.
But don't give these guys free access. To me, press on the outside, play some heavy box if you can, and try and pray that you can keep them to under 3 yards of carry, playing 8-man box.
Yeah.
And maybe think about making a change at safety.
Sure.
And using Overshown as a rusher.
I tell you what, Brian, I wasn't really expecting much out of Moody, but Moody made some plays, man. Moody
He's a good player.
Yeah, I just wasn't expecting. I just thought this was a Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan operation. But if you just kind of look up Mooney's catches, Mooney got some big time catches, and he had a game versus Tampa, I believe, where he had a couple touchdowns. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, he is one of these guys that you definitely have to kind of be aware of him. As a player, I was just kind of, looking at stuff for him because I was just curious. I'm like, man, what is this guy? He kind of moves all over the place. The motions are kind of, there's a motion and there's another motion behind it.
Sure. And,
I could say when you press these guys, their receptions drop dramatically. I mean, when they go from playing in free access to playing in press, all of a sudden, their receptions drop. So this is where, to me, I kind of feel like if you can handle Moody, and I was just curious about, where the majority of his stuff comes, and it's a lot of his stuff is on the outside. But what he really, really likes, the best routes. I'm saying, okay, I have the ability to look up what are his best routes. Where does he have the most production? Just off the tape, the out route, the screen. He's a screen guy, so you got to worry about that. The hitch and the cross. So when you look at London, it's the out, the hitch, and the slant, or his 3 best route. McLeod is the hitch, the screen, the cross, and the in. So McLeod is the guy that runs the in routes and the crossing routes. Moody can do that. Yeah. You got the tight end that kind of runs the seam routes. If you're watching Dallas play against Detroit and San Francisco, why don't you try and run crossing routes? They don't cover them.
Yeah.
There's 2 best players on these crossing routes and stuff appear to be Moody and McLeod. Yeah. But I've seen McLeod draw. I mean, I'll tell you one thing about McLeod. I've seen him, they've tried to throw him the ball a couple of times in press coverage, and he's got no receptions. I mean, it's funny. They when you play him in that, the press or the neutral coverage where it's 3 to 5 yards of cushion, he's got no receptions.
Sure.
He's got 5 targets, no receptions. But what's happened is that Cousins has thrown 2 interceptions in 5 attempts. So, I don't know if that's something that, Atlanta's probably looking at that going, well, hell, I ain't throwing that guy on crossing routes or anything like that. Right. When it's neutral cushion, when it's press, doesn't have a catch, 5 targets, 2 interceptions. Man, okay. I ain't so much worried about that cat. I'll worry about somebody else. And I don't know. Like I say, like you always like to say, just a guy with a mic and a camera right now.
Let's type in Ray McLeod versus press cover. And yeah, he doesn't have a catch versus press. So yeah, so sure. But Brian, let me ask you this though, man. How does this balance work for you? Because I watch film all the time. But let me tell you something that I say to myself, because I talk to myself all the time. I go, man, this work versus them. They wouldn't dare do that versus us, because it'll just, you know what I'm saying? Like they're gonna do something totally different when they get to us. And honestly, we can talk about all this passing if you want to. Hey man, I don't know if y'all out there gambling.
Running the ball. That's why I was saying the loaded box.
Bijan,
They do not. Both backs have less than 3 yards of carry, and it's not a small sample size.
Sure.
Some people have played some stacked box against these guys, and they've shut these guys down less than three yards of carry, like 2.8, 2.7. If you felt good enough about that, you would do it. I'll tell you where I've been worried a little bit is I'm worried about when they put Moody or somebody like that in the backfield as a receiver.
Sure.
Backfield receiver, after seeing Deebo Samuel and how that all worked out, like, oh, look, they're going to play it with a linebacker with, on a wheel route, and I do worry about receivers lining up in the backfield in those matchups.
Sure.
I worry a lot, and I said it earlier, I worry a lot about these backs catching the football. I think they've had well over 30 attempts for both these guys, and I think they've had 2 incompletions.
Yeah.
Throwing the ball to these guys.
Sure.
And that's the thing. The running part scares me. But what scares me even more is you get Bijan Robinson in space, and now you're come flying up and you miss a tackle, and a 3-yard gain turns into a 17-yard gain.
Bijan catches the ball a lot. He catches. Well, he has 230 something receiving yards on the year or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that you have to deal with, man. You've got to tackle this guy, man. He's just you
got to tackle both these cats.
All of them.
I mean, yeah. Both these cats.
Yeah. We were having a conversation about guys that you could trade for, and we're like, hey, Tyler Algier, would love to have him. Yeah. They actually use him. Like he's not just a guy.
They use both their backs.
Yeah, they do.
Both. They're very, very similar to like Detroit, where you watch the game and you're kind of like, oh, okay. Oh, they're using it. Okay. And it alternates. It could alternate from play to play. Yeah. I mean, from, they first down, second down, whatever. I mean, it's just play to play. Yeah.
Brian, some that gave us issues last week was Eric Kendricks chasing around running backs or Deebo Samuel lined up at running back. They'll line him up wide, and then Kendricks had to chase him. You think we're gonna run a lot more zone this week? Because I think it's a bad idea for Kendricks to be chasing Bijan around, or just for any of those guys to be chasing Bijan around.
Man, I think it's you're damned if you do, and if you're damned if you don't.
How do you cover him, Brian? Do you?
The problem is I don't think Kendricks is completely healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean to. I hope I'm not stepping out of bounds here myself, but he did not look like he had any kind of a burst off that calf injury last week.
Sure.
Now maybe a little bit more treatment, maybe a little bit more rest. Maybe, Kendricks is a tough son of a gun, but you got to be able to burst a little bit. But the man coverage stuff, I think that, depending on how many guys you play down in the box, and I think I think your best chance is to stop the run is with the loaded box. And I think the next best chance of playing is playing press coverage. And so if you play a lot of press coverage, you're probably going to have to play a lot of man.
Yeah.
And, can they take advantage of that? That's what scares me a little bit. Like I said, about throwing the ball to these running backs, because I think they can do that pretty well.
You need to take Kalen Carson and make him chase around Bijan all day. And that's the only way I would feel solid about this thing, but whatever. Hey man, Bryan Broaddus, just another dreary little day where we don't sound like we got much confidence versus the.
You know what, man? I apologize to everybody out there. I'm just trying to tell you, I think the Atlanta defense, I think there's some issues there. I think there's some issues there. Now, can you get your guys going? Can you, we'll be back here tomorrow night talking about Atlanta defense and, hey, well, Dak can do this. Dak can do that. Maybe they can run the ball over here. Maybe they can get Ferguson going. I was kind of, like I say, after we're done tonight, I'm going to take a look at them. But talking to people around the league, they're like, Atlanta's offense is good. Their defense, though, is a little suspect. So I'm looking forward to, chopping that thing up and seeing where we're at.
I was watching a little bit earlier, and I was really worried about Judon because I just know his name is Judon. I kind of watched him, and Judon wasn't really whooping ass like that. So we'll see. No. Maybe we look up, and I think it all comes. Brian, I think we should really skip the Thursday episodes, and it because it comes down to your play caller, man. It comes down to your play caller. We can say, oh man, you can throw the ball against Detroit secondary. Oh, you can throw the ball against. It's a lot of secondaries coming up that you can throw the ball against. But if your play call is out here on some nonsense, it won't matter.
Well, the thing about it too is you and I gave the scouting report how we thought this thing was going to go down against Detroit. And it's so funny because Jerry Jones thought the same damn thing.
Sure.
They thought they were going to be able to throw the ball against Detroit secondary and didn't throw a damn bit. Nothing. So, not trying to be negative, man. That's not I'm trying not to lie to you guys. I don't want to have players to have to apologize to me for getting in my face about stuff and all that.
We gonna get right back in their damn face, Bryan Broaddus. We ain't backing down with these people.
Let me tell you what, Mike Leslie and Diggs, that's just a ceasefire for a little bit. That's ceasefire. That's two world leaders meeting and okay, let's have a little ceasefire here, and then all of a sudden they start fighting again.
Yeah, now it's this conversation about players and media that's going around. Come on, man. What are we doing? Hey, Bryan Broaddus, man, I love working with you. Fantastic. Cowboys
appreciate
losing,
you, brother. Thank you, man. Thank you.
We'll just figure this thing out week by week, man. Hey, if y'all want to see some more of my work, y'all know where to find me. I'm all over, Voch Lombardi. I was on Bleach Report yesterday. I'll be on Bleach Report today. I'll be on Bleach Report tomorrow. And I'm going to be working with Bryan Broaddus at Bryn Broaddus on social medias. He'll be talking to you on Twitter and answering your questions in the comment section. We read them all. So y'all tap in with us, all right? We love y'all to pieces. We'll break down the Falcons defense tomorrow. And we'll catch you next time. Crown.